This is Wayne from My Tech News, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing Xenoraid on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this game is actually a multi-platform game, so you can buy this on other platforms outside of the Nintendo Switch. And recently, if you checked my channel, you'll know that I reviewed Strikers 1945 2, which is also another shoot 'em up. The reason I've been really reviewing a lot of shoot 'em ups recently is because I've been on a shoot 'em up kick, and I really wanted to dive deeper into the shoot 'em up genre, because in my life, I really haven't played a lot of shoot 'em ups. Besides the Strikers 1945 2, I've only played two other shoot 'em ups. I've only played Graceful Explosion Machine, and then I also played the very popular arcade game Galaga. But outside of those games, I really haven't dive deeper into this genre, so that's why I'm reviewing a lot of these games. So unfortunately, you're going to be getting a lot of reviews on these shoot 'em ups. I apologize about that, but I'm just in a really high kick when it comes to the shoot 'em up genre. So how does Xenoraid play? How does Xenoraid feel? Well, let's find out in this video. Is this a game you should buy, or is this a game you should pass on? Now, when you first look at Xenoraid looks like your standard shooter. There's nothing crazy going on. You pretty much have a spacecraft at the bottom of your screen, of course, and your primary goal is to take out all the aliens on screen. I told you in my Strikers 1945 2 review, I told you I really wasn't into the spaceships or aircrafts or alien type theme, but this game for some reason just really appealed to me when I first stumbled across this game, so that's why I picked this game up. It looks like your standard shooter again. You're just shooting aliens, you're shooting spacecrafts and things like that. The nice thing about this game, just like the Strikers 1945 2, is you pretty much only have two primary shooting functions on your ship, so it's not going to be overwhelming with a lot of different shooting modes and things like that. You have one to shoot your primary weapon, whatever it is, and then you also have a special button, which is pretty much going to detonate your special. And the specials in this game are pretty much your standard specials. You're not going to be doing anything too crazy in this game. You might be shooting like a missile out, you might be shooting like a bomb out, but besides that, the specials are pretty generic. But you do have a special button in this game, and you do have a primary shooting function, which pretty much shoots your gun. But besides that, actually, believe it or not, just by looking at this footage, this game is actually not your standard generic typical shooter on the market like every other shoot 'em up in this genre. There's actually some very big key differences with this game that make it stand out from the crowd, which is actually why I picked up this game. First off, before I talk about the major differences this game actually incorporates, besides some other shooters on the market, I want to talk about the graphics and the actual soundtrack of this game and the sounds. When it comes to the actual graphics and comes to the actual art style of this game, I must say I'm actually quite a big fan of the art style of this game. I think the art style actually suits Xenoraid really well. The only thing I can say about this game is the fact that some of the backgrounds kind of look generic. If you look at the footage, you're just seeing like maybe like a picture of like a planet in the background, or maybe you're just seeing a picture of like a moon, or maybe you're seeing like a galaxy picture. So when it comes to the backgrounds and the art style, in that case, it's kind of generic and kind of dull in that case. But what I can say is I really do like the actual design of the aircraft itself. I love the fact too, when you're moving around with your spaceship, they really use the thrusters in the back to really show you that they're really going through anti-gravity. So that is kind of a nice touch. When it comes to the actual shooting of the guns, they actually sound really satisfying. That's one reason also just kind of appealed to me. I wouldn't say it's going to blow your mind when it comes to the actual sound effects in the game, but the sound effects are very solid. It really does feel like you're shooting a gun in the game, or you're blasting off a missile in the game, and when you're actually hitting your targets in this game, it's very satisfying. And when things explode, you can definitely hear that they explode. Overall, the sound effects in this game, I would give an A+. Now, when it comes to the music of this game, I would say I'm not really too big of a fan of the music. The music is just there in the game. I wouldn't say I hate the music or I love the music. It's just there. That's as plain and simple. I can't say anything else about the music in the game. All I can say is it's just there in the game. So if you want music, you have music in the game. But outside of that, it's just music, and I didn't love it or hate it. Also, really quickly, this game does have a story to it. So every time you're going through mission, you do have a story. And it does have, not really cutscenes, but it does have pictures that come up with text with different characters on the screen that are like hand-drawn or whatever. But I'm not really a big fan of the actual story of the game. The story of the game is okay. There's nothing crazy going on with this story. The story is just there, just like the music. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was just there. When it comes to shooters, actually, I'm not really looking for a story. I just want to play a shoot 'em game, and I just want to shoot everything on screen. But I guess it's nice that they did incorporate a story in the game if you're looking for a story. The art style of the characters were okay, but they didn't really impress me. The story in the game didn't really impress me. It was just there, like the music. Now let's get back to some of the major differences in the gameplay of the game, because this does stand out as one of the most unique shoot 'em ups I've seen in recent years or recently. So that's why I'm talking about this game. Now when it comes to the actual firing of this game, like I said, you do have a primary gun, then you do have your special in the game, and you can't just shoot your gun just like any other shooting game. When you actually shoot your gun, you do have a bar on your spaceship, and it will actually overheat, so you have to be careful when you're shooting your primary gun in the game, because it will overheat. Luckily, it only takes like 3 or 4 seconds before it starts cooling down, but it will overheat, so that's nice that they just don't want you spamming your gun all the time. So it does give it some kind of strategy there by making the ships not be able to shoot all the time by having them overheat. Also, when it comes to your special in the game, you actually have a set number of specials in the game, and they're preset each time you go to a different stage. So when you're using your special, once it runs out in that stage, you have to wait until the next stage to get more. You don't actually get more. When it actually comes to the main game of this game, you don't actually pick up pickups like a lot of other shooters. There's no pickups on stage. So what your ship is equipped with in each stage, that's all you get. You won't find any power-ups in the actual game. So once you run out, you have to be careful with that. Now moving on to one of the most coolest things about this game. This game does incorporate some type of roguelike elements or roguelite elements into this game. Not going to go over that genre. You may already be familiar about it. I talked a lot about it on my channel already. But basically, this game does implement roguelike elements because you do have lives in this game, but it doesn't work like any typical shooter. Usually in a shoot 'em up game, when you die, you just respawn in the game and you're back shooting. But in this game, when you actually die, you switch ships. So when you're actually playing the game, you can have up to 4 ships at one time. You don't use them all at the same time. Pretty much they're just your stocks of the game. So for instance, you have 4 lives. When a ship dies, you bring in a new ship, and then when that ship dies, you bring in a new ship. So that's how it works. And there are different ships in the game that shoot kind of differently, and they do have different specials in the game. The cool thing about this game, which I haven't even talked about, is the fact that once you have 4 ships in the battlefield, you can actually customize these ships, so you're not just using the same ships over and over and over. You can customize like the gun, you can make it more powerful, you can make your bombs more powerful, you can pretty much upgrade a lot of the aspects of the actual ships in the game. And on top of that, they actually have another place in the game, in the main menu, where you can actually add like little perks of all your ships, which pretty much give you advantages in battle. Like for one, maybe you can upgrade how much damage you get in the game, or maybe you can upgrade how many specials you get in the game, or maybe you can upgrade how much it costs to repair these things. Because talking about the repairing in this game, that's one nice thing I love about this game. I love the fact that it's not one-hit deaths just like some other shoot 'em ups on the market, because as you know, with the shoot 'em up genre or bullet hell games, they're some of the hardest games you can play. But what I can say with Xenoraid is one of the most easiest shooters you can play on the market. That's also why this game kind of appeals to me. It starts out fairly easy, but then it gets quite harder a little bit later in the game. But it is nice that this game is a very good game for beginners. I can safely say that if you're maybe on the fence of these games and you've looked at these games before and you're really like on the fence because there's so many bullets on screen, well, this game doesn't overwhelm you with bullets. I would say this is one of the easiest shoot 'em ups to get into. Trust me though, in the later stages you will be having a difficulty time beating these stages, but all I can say is upgrade your ships. All I can say is upgrade new powers and things like that. And pretty much once a ship dies in this game as well, you don't it doesn't respawn. So once you die, you lose the ship forever. That's kind of why I said this has roguelike elements. You're always buying new ships, you're always upgrading ships. Ships are getting destroyed and things like that. One thing I did notice in the game, when you're going from world to world, each world resets. So when you go from like world 1 and you beat the last stage in world 1, if you already had all your ships upgraded and you bought a lot of perks, you will have to start from fresh from world 2. At pretty much every world you start fresh. You start with new. They give you 4 free ships at the start of each world. They also clear everything off the board. You get points and things like that. And also there is actually things you can actually pick up on the battlefield. I said there was no power-ups, but there actually is points you can pick up. So from time to time you will get points, but the points are only used to actually getting upgrades in the shops for your ships and perks for your ships, and that's about it when it comes to pickups on the field. This game actually also doesn't really incorporate any score. So if you're looking for a score in this game, unfortunately you won't find any score in this game. That kind of sucks, because you know a lot of these games are arcadey and you'd want to rack up a score and see how much score you can get. However, outside the main story mode, there is actually a mode that pretty much is like a horde type mode, where pretty much you try to see how long you can last, and that mode is in there. And that mode actually incorporates scoring in that mode. So if you're a big fan of scoring in these type of shoot 'em up games, then you do have the unlimited mode to see how long you can last and see how long you can go outside the main story. So that is nice. I love the fact that this game incorporates different ships, and when you die you have to switch ships, and you can switch ships on the fly, and that really gives it some strategy. For instance, maybe you're actually going around and your ship's actually really destroyed. You can see its health bar and it's very low. You can switch out to a new ship, or maybe there's a bullet coming straight for your ship and you're about to take damage. You can switch out to another ship really quickly, or maybe the cooldown on your ship's too high, and then you can't let it recool in time, and there's someone coming. You can switch out really quickly. And on boss fights, I found that it's very cool that you can just switch ships, so it does give it some strategy there. One thing I must say I'm not really a big fan of in this game, which it does kind of make this game suffer, is I don't like the fact that when you're playing this game, I played pretty much the whole game right now. Maybe I only have a couple stages left to beat this game, but from what I played like 95% of the game right now, and what I can say is I don't like the fact that the enemy variation in this game is very repetitive. The first enemies you see in the game are pretty much the last enemies you see in the game, and they don't really mix up the variety in the actual enemies on the game. So get ready to be seeing the same enemies over and over and over and over and over, which does kind of suck in this game. But the fact that it incorporates roguelike elements, you can upgrade your ships, you get perks for these ships, and things like that. I think this game still holds up really well despite it having really repetitive enemies. You see the same enemies on screen and things like that. At first, when I first played this game, I was like, why is this game so easy? And it kind of bothered me. This game was pretty easy, but then once I got to the middle of the game, it was kind of harder and things like that. I also love the fact too, you do get a new difficulty after you beat the game, and on top of that, you can kind of play this game more harder than what you're intended. So like I said, for instance, you're supposed to have 4 ships at all times, but the thing with this game is you can actually sell off every single ship except for one ship. Of course, you need one ship to play the game, so it's nice if you want to make this game harder on you, just sell off all the other 3 ships that you have and only stick with one ship, and then once the ship dies, it's game over, and you can keep on trying and trying and trying if you want to make this game a little bit harder. I think fans of the actual shoot 'em up genre, if you played a lot of shoot 'em ups, you might actually say that this game is fairly easy. And on that note, I can admit this game is fairly easy, especially for a person who's been playing shoot 'em ups for most of their life, or if you've really played some of the harder ones like Ikaruga, or just some of the really crazy ones out there, and you're pretty much a master of it. I don't think you'll have any problem with this game, but then again, you can, like I said, sell off all your ships if you want to make this game slightly harder. One thing also I do have to mention, talking about the enemy variety in this game, I'm not really a big fan of the bosses in this game. The bosses in this game aren't really that hard, but the main thing with the bosses in this game, they're not really that amazing or that cool. I'm not going to show you on screen, and I'm not going to really spoil the game. I'll let you experience those for yourself if you're thinking about picking up Xenoraid, but I wasn't really impressed with the bosses in the game. There was bosses at the end of each world, but they really weren't anything special or anything crazy. They didn't make me jump out of my seat. I wasn't blown away by their art style, their graphic design, the way they shoot or anything. It just felt like another space alien craft that you have to shoot in this game. But they are nice, and I am very glad that they at least put bosses in this game. Unlike some other game I recently played, hint hint, Graceful Explosion Machine, at least it has bosses in the game. Overall, my time with this game is very quite good. Overall, I love this game. I can't recommend this game enough, especially if you're a new person to the shoot 'em up genre and you're thinking about buying a shoot 'em up for the first time. I can't recommend this game enough. The difficulty of this game, I think, is just right. I love the roguelike elements of the game. I love that you can upgrade your ships. I love the fact that you can buy perks for your ship. I love the sound. I love everything about this game. Definitely recommend it. And the good thing about this game is it's only $10. It is more higher than the Strikers 1945 2 coming in at $8, but I think the extra $2 is worth it for this game. And this is one game you definitely want on the Nintendo Switch. Matter of fact, of course, with every shoot 'em up, you definitely want to go for the Nintendo Switch version if you have the Nintendo Switch over other platforms, because obviously the pick up and play aspect and the fact you can take the Nintendo Switch on the go, this is a very good game. Also, before I head out of here, I did forget to mention this game actually allows you to customize every single button to your liking. So whether you're playing with the Joy-Cons, whether you're playing Joy-Con grip, Pro Controller, handheld mode, tabletop mode, whatever the case may be, it does let you actually change your control scheme, and I'm actually very happy about that, and I'm actually glad a lot of these games actually implement that, so if you don't like certain buttons, you can map them out to whatever button you want on your controller, which is a very nice touch. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.